Hey friends, so there are few things more frustrating than finding yourself in the middle of an argument with someone that began because of something they did, and suddenly they have twisted the situation to become about you and how everything is your fault. When you say this out loud and it's not you in the situation, it sounds almost funny or even ridiculous, but trust me, when you're in the thick of it, it's very easy to get caught up in that trap. Very. I have said many times on this channel and other places too that personal accountability is one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle that you need to have in order to move forward in your life's journey. Having it is also one of the best things you can ever do for yourself mentally too, because it is so very important to your growth just in general. When you own your stuff, your mistakes, your flaws, your failures, and your weaknesses, your awareness of those things helps you learn from them and make better choices. And when you're aware of your stuff, other people cannot use those things against you in those circumstances. They're no longer flaws or mistakes. They are works in progress when you add in that awareness. You know how I always say that authenticity is sexy? Well, so is self-awareness, if you ask me. Several years ago, I saw a little cartoon of two chickens having a conversation that I had to dive deep into the recesses of the internet to find to show you all, because I think it fits in well with this video. Anyway, as our chicken friend on the left here is helpfully demonstrating, personal accountability and self-awareness are not standard equipment for everyone, unfortunately. Some people just don't have it. So when you find yourself in a disagreement with someone who lacks it, you may find yourself being shoved into the box of villain without even having done anything wrong. Let me save you some time and energy. There are many times where you will not be able to do anything to make them check themselves. Some people's egos are just too fragile to allow this. They likely won't admit their part, or that they were wrong, or that they did anything at all. Why do they do this? Well, the answer is complicated, obviously, because everyone is different. However, let me share some things I have learned about people that I will call blamers. They often accuse others of actions or even intentions that do not belong to that person, and often, in fact, belong to themselves. They need the other person to be the bad one sometimes because they have probably been labeled as bad somewhere along the line, and they don't want to carry that psychological burden in any other situations. They don't want to internalize any of the negativity of their behavior, so they want you to take on the anger and the guilt and the shame instead. So their load is lighter. Now, one of the things that's really hard about this is that as rational human beings, when someone blames us or criticizes us, we will sometimes start to examine our own behavior, even if we haven't done anything wrong. This is especially true when the criticism or blame is being lobbed at us by someone that we really care about. So you find yourself asking questions like, is there any truth to this? Could it be my fault? Or could I have somehow misplaced my intentions and didn't know it? Or what did I do? It must have been something. And look, there's nothing wrong with honestly investigating our own behavior. It's an act of, you guessed it, self-awareness. To acknowledge that, yes, maybe you could have done something differently or better in a situation boosts that self-awareness. And it's a hell of a lot healthier for your growth than just always thinking you're blameless. But when you are in a close interpersonal relationship with a chronic blamer, I'd be willing to bet that you have already done plenty of self-examination, and continuing to lower your shield and allow the blamer to keep lobbing those guilt tomatoes at you over and over not only starts to make you feel real messy, but it can do a number on your mental health. So what do you do in situations like this where you find yourself the bad guy in someone else's story every single time? Well, first you need to realize that this bad guy role is not self-appointed. They assigned you that in their own internal narrative, so they don't have to own it. And this is what you need to remind yourself, that other people's perceptions of you are not your reality, or anyone else's for that matter. You cannot let the blamer manipulate you into thinking that their seriously skewed truth is also your truth. And sometimes you're going to have to get comfortable with not telling others your side of the story. A quick personal bit here. I rarely have falling outs with people. It's just not who I am. I don't like to carry around grudges and things like that. I think it's a waste of time, honestly, because it's just one more thing that I have to carry the load on. The person I'm still mad at probably doesn't care anymore anyway, if they ever did at all. If they cared, I wouldn't still be mad, because they would have tried to make things right for real. So in the cases where a total disconnection has happened, or the falling out was pretty bad, I used to want to rush to tell my side of the story to anyone that would listen, because I didn't want to be blamed for things I didn't do. Every story has at least two sides, right? And I thought it was important to tell mine, whether someone asked or not. I didn't want people to think that I was the one who did this or that. I didn't want people to think I was the bad guy if I wasn't. Then one day, I stopped caring about telling my side. I let other things do it for me, like time, karma, the other person's actions afterwards, and the truth, side number 3 of every story. If someone asked me, I told the tale unfiltered, without making excuses for anyone's behavior, including my own. If it made me look bad, then so be it. It's a part of owning your stuff. And if it made the other person look bad, then that's on them. That's their own fault for not having acted better. I don't even make excuses for people I like, let alone people who did me dirty, you know? The reason I stopped caring so much about telling my side of the story was because it didn't matter. The person listening was going to believe one side or the other anyway, depending on who the person the falling out was. And that was perfectly okay, because the people who really, really know me, who know my heart and who I really am, were going to know the truth regardless. It wasn't necessary to keep explaining. So no lie or BS story or attempts at destroying my character was going to work against people who know my true character. And anybody who could be that easily swayed into believing something different either really didn't know me at all or wasn't my real friend anyway. So why should I care about what those people think anyway? I shared this little story because I know how hard it is firsthand to try to resist that urge to clear the air when you are being made into the bad person in a story where you aren't. You will probably have the urge to do this not just with others around you, you'll likely have the urge to do it with the person who you are arguing with themselves. Another piece of free advice. When you try to do this with a chronic blamer, you're wasting your time. Absolutely. They don't care about your side of the story or placing all of the blame on you either. It usually takes some serious consequences of their own actions to make any kind of change to this behavior, even if it's very slight ones. Sometimes that consequence is that they lose access to you. When you're dealing with a chronic blamer, when everything is always your fault and never theirs, it's important to remember 2 things. One is that you will never win that blame game. You aren't even playing on the same field. That type of victim mentality of theirs is like a whole mindset, and you really have no control over it. There are no winning moves except one: not to play. Remember that you do not have to show up for every argument that you're invited to, my friends. And 2, don't waste time and energy trying to change people who are stuck in being a chronic blamer. People, especially ones like this, do not ever truly change for others. They can modify behavior temporarily, sure, but permanent, lasting changes for the better? People only really do this when they realize and admit that they are doing something that is wrong and damaging to both their relationships with others and with themselves. This is a lot harder than it sounds, but learning to hold yourself accountable always is. The good news is, though, that not having personal accountability is a habit, not a personality trait, and habits can be broken. But again, it's going to be up to them to do, not you. What is up to you is whether or not you choose to continue to deal with someone who's in that space. Only you can really make that choice, but remember that when you feel like staying in a relationship of any kind where everything is your fault all the time is draining you so much to the point where your mental health is starting to really suffer, it's okay to walk away if that's what's best for you and your well-being. You don't owe anybody anything. You have to put yourself first, and it is okay to do so. If you take away just one thing from this video, let it be that. That's all I've got for you this week. I'll be back next week with another priority message. Until then, take good care of yourselves. Bye.